you all and start with a few housekeeping items. Please mute your phone or PC if not speaking to help reduce any background noise. If you are not speaking, you are encouraged to remain off camera, as you may have noticed this meeting is being recorded. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat and they will be responded to at the end of the presentation. Also, if you're interested in the business analyst processes, the Business Analyst Networking Group meets the third Wednesday during months in which PMUG does not meet. For more information, visit the BANG website, which will be posted in the chat momentarily. This meeting will be recorded and a link to the meeting and resources will be shared shortly after today's session and posted on the DAS YouTube channel. You will also find the slides in your team's invite. You're welcome to share with your other colleagues and encouraged to spread the word on our PMUG Wednesday sessions. So without further ado, ever wonder what software platform to use for a project? Today, I have the pleasure of hosting a session on the topic with an emphasis on Smartsheet. At this time, I would like to welcome Joey Rosano and thank her for volunteering to share her insight with us today. Go right ahead, Joey.
Great, thanks, Amy. Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to be here. Hopefully you can see the presentation. There's a lot to cover, and so I just want to jump right in. This is only my second PMUG meeting, so I'm really excited about Smartsheet. Want to show it to you right away. So I'm just going to jump into why should you listen to me, right? I am in the Public Health Division Director's Office, part of the Oregon Health Authority. My title is Accreditation and Accountability Coordinator, but when both of those things got put on hold during COVID, they kind of changed my job role to Collaboration Strategist, as we brought on a lot of community-based organizations and we needed a way to collaborate with them. I'm Smartsheet Core Certified, Smartsheet System Administrator Certified. Oh, okay. Also, if you'll see, actually, sorry, so sorry. Thanks, Amy. Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here to showcase one of my favorite software tools with you today. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a middle-aged white woman with chin-length, blondish, purplish hair with blue framed glasses, wearing a pink shirt and a background of the brand new project management certification from Smartsheet as my background. This slide is not exhaustive, but shows my relevant experience for the presentation today. And my contact information will be at the end of the slide deck, should you like to follow up with me. So at Public Health, we are also part of the Early Adopter Program. I've also presented at the Smartsheet Portland Area User Group as a presenter. I was an Engage presenter, which is their annual conference that they have in 2020. It's actually going on right now this week up in Seattle. I've been training Smartsheet Sessions and offering those technical assistance recorded as well as presentations for the agency for the last 3 years. I'm also the team administrator for the Smartsheet Users Group team, which has about 12 agencies on the team. And you'll have more information at the end if you'd like to join that as well. My experience is that I have a master's from Willamette and love data. I just love data. So here's what we're going to cover today. I have a short video that shows you in a nutshell what I could not do in an hour or whatever. It's only like a minute and a half. And then the history and background of how we came to be using it at both Public Health as the agency, some of the use cases and the ways that we're using it across the agency, comparison of Smartsheet as a tool compared to some of the other tools that we have available to us in the agency and throughout the state. As well as I'd like to show you how we're using it. I have both an internal demonstration as well as an external demonstration. And then I'm just going to open up to questions because you might have some of those. This is that short video, and I did test it ahead of time. I want to see if it works. I have enabled sound. Let's see if this works.
Smartsheet is a cloud-based dynamic work platform that empowers teams and organizations to capture, plan, and manage all their work in one intuitive, flexible, and scalable experience. Starting from a simple grid view to capture tasks and milestones, team members can switch to Gantt, card, or calendar view to fit the way they work. Same data, flexible views. Share and collaborate on your work easily with people inside and outside your organization. Review and comment on content right in the sheet with the simple, streamlined approval process. Set up automated workflows like reminders and updates to keep work moving. Create custom forms to collect error-free, consistent data that flows right into your sheet. Compile information from multiple sheets into easy-to-build reports. Roll reports, charts, and other real-time data into interactive dashboards to share across your organization or create a customized, no-code app to fit your team's specific needs. And all of this integrates with your favorite business tools with enterprise-grade security and controls. You can start from scratch or use one of our many proven, pre-built, and optimized templates or solutions to speed your execution and accelerate your time to value. Enable your teams to move faster and achieve more with Smartsheet.
My apologies if that was so tiny. If you have the presentation that was sent out with the meeting invite, I invite you to go back and watch that on YouTube. It's a nice little recap of all the different bells and whistles that are available. The background that we have with public health was we used to use Excel for everything and Microsoft projects for large projects. I in particular was in charge of the performance management system. So we're talking before we had Mass Ingenuity and the results system at the Oregon Health Authority. We would have about 20 Excel sheets that at the end of the month, I would have to collate and cross-check in order to produce the report for the month. It would take me probably a full 3 days because there were so many people involved, right? And they were all at the executive level. So my boss went out and said, you have to find something better. So I probably looked at 12 or 13 different types of software. Some were as expensive as $50,000. But she also said, you know, our immunization program has this thing called Smartsheet. Why don't you just walk downstairs and check it out? The minute I saw it, I knew that it was going to be the answer because of the way the sheets talk to each other and the reporting capabilities that were there. So we went to Mark Fairbanks, who's the CFO of OHA at the time, and I said, please let me do a pilot project. Now, the way that public health is created, we have 4 different centers, the director's office and 3 centers. And I said, let's just do a pilot project. Let's do the performance system using Excel for the other 3 centers. And then one of the centers will use this new Smartsheet in 1 month. It was supposed to be a 3-month trial. In 1 month, the other centers who were not on the pilot came to me and said, please, we need to use this. We did a use study on it to determine the ROI based on the time that all the managers saved by utilizing the Smartsheet system, as well as my time going down from the 3 days at the end of the month to 4 hours for the same process with multiple reports, increased accuracy and efficiency. It more than paid for itself within the month of adoption. Some of the use cases just at public health that we have are data collection, kind of like SurveyMonkey, dashboard reporting with data visualization. They have what's called low code, no code, and they're shareable both in internal as well as external stakeholders. They can communicate with team members using the automations, sending reminders and asking for updates, which you would normally do in either sending an attachment, having them open it and put their piece in and sending it back with an email attachment and having multiple versions of the same file. It now has also document generation with version control, which is very similar to like mail merging with Word. It does it with PDFs and email. You can have unlimited collaborators, some of that at no cost to them for a single license. And then again, that user-driven low code, no code solution that we all find so intuitive. The project management software, and correct me if I'm wrong, these are the tools that as the collaboration strategist for OHA, at least for public health, these are the tools that we have available to us, right? We have Microsoft Project in the middle top there, and that's kind of the gold standard. I put a question mark there just because that's my own interpretation. If I was going to build a hospital, you bet Microsoft Project is absolutely the one to go to. It is so robust. But for what we were working on, we didn't need such a large piece of software. The one to the right of that is Planner. Now, Planner is what I call Project Lite. It's an app within the Teams platform, and it's a terrific tool, and it's very similar to Project. There's some drawbacks to it. You can't use it in restricted channels, and you can't restrict access to it. So if you use the Planner app in the Teams environment, but you only wanted to use it for a subgroup of the people on your team, it's problematic, right? Because everybody on the team sees the planner, and when you have reminders and things, everybody gets notified. So you have these restricted channels, which allow you to limit the people who see certain things, only you can't use the planner app in a restricted channel. There's also in the bottom left, there's an Excel Gantt template. So if you were to open Excel and say new, and then look at their templates, they do have a Gantt template. So I did a screenshot of it there. That's what it looks like. It works if all you're going to use it for is data visualization of a timeline of your project. It's not robust in any way. It doesn't have any type of inner functionality. So it's fine if that's all you need is a visual interpretation of a timeline, but that's about it. So I also have mentioned Basecamp, which is in the top left. Basecamp is great for collaboration. However, it's heavily weighted on in a qualitative type thing, documents, discussions, and those types of things. There's very little quantitative information that you can use with Basecamp. Both Basecamp and Smartsheet are on the exceptions list for the Office of Information Services, or OIS. And we use both of those at the Public Health Division. Smartsheet is, in short, what I call a combination of Access, Excel, SurveyMonkey, Adobe, MS Flow, Chat, and more.
Joy,
I put together.
Go
quick,
ahead. We have a question in the chat, and I was just wondering, do you prefer that to ask questions as you're speaking or at the end of the presentation?
You know, Amy and I did talk about that. I'm happy to answer questions. I wonder if my presentation is going to answer those questions by the time we get to the end. So I think if you can put them in the chat and let's talk about them at the end would be great.
Okay.
There's so many bells and whistles. It's not that I don't want to answer the question, but I'm afraid I'm going to get sidetracked because I get kind of excited about the opportunities that Smartsheet presents. Thank you for asking that. This is a chart that I put together. It is not completely complete. Like I did get the buckets from a comparison online, and I took those 5 options for project management and modified them for our agency, right? So some of them do require a license and some of them do not. So I have a short synopsis on what it's best for, right? So nobody needs a license for Excel, and you know, it's a simple visual representation of how the project will be managed. So this is just a helpful side-by-side comparison. It's not exhaustive. It was literally put together by me. So I hope it's helpful just to compare some of the tools that you have available to you at the state. This slide shows I'll be honest, I stole this one from Smartsheet. It shows how they present their security and compliance, because we know that that's an issue, right? We have public records requests, we have all kinds of PHI and PII and security levels that we're concerned with. So this one shows you that Smartsheet has thought about that, and these are some of the ways that they explain each of those features. However, Bryant Lister gave a presentation to the PMUG a few years ago, and this was his slide, which I shamelessly stole, but it addresses Smartsheet specifically, because the cloud workbook that we have that covers the most of the uses is approved for level 2 data, which means no personal health information or personally identifying information. This is the risk sensitivity, and they typically say, what level is it? And some people haven't seen this chart before, but typically 2 is plenty of security. When you get into 3, that's the stuff that starts to get a little dodgy in the sense that it's very sensitive and you do want to restrict it. And then 4 is like someone's going to be in harm if you let out that information. So for project management purposes, Smartsheet is just fine on the security concerns. Again, this is a Smartsheet slide. They have over 2,000 documented cases across all their departments. So you can see project management is literally one of the cases of which they use them. I can tell you, looking at all of these different use cases, we probably use the majority of those at public health, because we have such a varied program maintenance. We have over 120 programs, and that was pre-COVID. So now I'm sure we have more than that across the agency, and it requires a very versatile tool in order to address all that. The use cases just at public health, there are, we do equipment reservations, document generation, database collection, coordination of vaccine events, project management, dashboards, reporting, speaker events, and coordination, legislative tracking. These are all the ones that just I know about. I'm sure there are more available. And I'm going to show you a couple of those too, so you can see it in action. The agencies that I know of who use Smartsheet are the following 12. That very first big one, the Oregon Health Authority, does include both the crew, as well as all of the other divisions, and DHS. DAS, which is an IT, Housing Community Services is one of our newer ones. OIS, Department of Corrections, Department of Justice, Oregon Employment Department, and Department of Education, the Lottery, the Youth Authority, and DEQ. If there are other agencies who are using it, I welcome them to join the team, and we can certainly add you to the list. One of the nice things about Smartsheet is that it offers Smartsheet University. There are learning tracks that provide not only visual instruction, but it's also written, as well as downloaded examples so that you can follow along. And when you're done with those, it tells you that you're complete. So this is a snapshot of my Smartsheet University, where you can see I've taken document builder, proofing, taking formulas to the next level. One of the nice things that I wanted to share with this group is that there's a project management fundamentals learning path. That's a mouthful, but it basically takes you from start to finish, and it's like a mini course in a PMP. And then at the end of the learning path, not only does it tell you complete and it gives you that badge, but it also gives you 5 1/4 professional development units. And it says, would you like to claim your credits from the Project Management Institute? And then you click and you register and you get some PDUs for that as well. Kind of cool. This is an example of what a Smartsheet template set might look like. This one in particular is called the Project Tracking and Rollup. So when you think of Smartsheet, it looks like Excel, but it acts like a database with a lot of bells and whistles. And the beauty of it comes when you combine reports and dashboards with your sheet to form a system like this. So people who have licenses, I always tell them when they design their system or their project, they have to decide how they want each of the elements to behave and what the user interaction is going to be like as a result of that system. Smartsheet's already done that in these template sets for you. So you can literally download the whole template set and just modify it for your particulars. There's only 3 elements in Smartsheet. There's sheets, which I call the engine, there's reports, and there's dashboards. The sheet itself, which you can see here, is the project plan, and that's where the majority of bells and whistles are going to be. That one has 4 different views. It looks like either a spreadsheet, a Gantt chart, what's called card view. It's kind of a Kanban visual system of organization, as well as a calendar view. It's all the same information, all in the sheet. Reports pull from the sheet, and they can pull from multiple sheets. So let's say you had one sheet for project A, one for project B, one for project C, etc. Each one of these reports can pull different information from each of those sheets to collate it into a groupable, summarizable report, which can then be either charted or reported on this dashboard, which can be shared with internal and external. So I wanted to show the template sets because this project details piece is that you as the designer or the owner, that's what you come up with, right? That's going to inform the design of your system. Most people get stuck on that project plan. They say it looks like Excel and they don't know how to get from the plan to the dashboard. That's what I want to show you, but that's where a template set could be very helpful to you if you were using it to get from the part that looks like Excel to the part that really adds the value. Some of the unique features, which I love, you won't see this in Excel. There is cell history in every cell. Have you ever gotten a spreadsheet where someone's accidentally wiped out the information or changed it and then saved it? Well, in Smartsheet, every cell, if you right click, you get this cell menu. And in the middle of that, you can see cell history. That will bring up this other box that says, okay, it was finalized project charter. Someone else went in there and wrote complete letter of support. Of course, it was me the whole time, but if it was you or any other collaborator, it would say, whoops, Jane Smith went in there and changed that value. So I could literally just copy that and paste it back to finalized project charter or change the value, or the accountability of being able to see the changes at the cell level is really lovely. It also has an auditing feature of the same way for the entire sheet. So you can see that I was in there and I made these changes. Somebody else was in there, they made these changes, and it's all trackable and downloadable as far as auditing for your system. And that's something that we don't have available to us in Excel or some of the other features. I'll be honest, I don't know if that's even available in Microsoft Project. I'd be surprised if it was, but it's saved my bacon more than once when things have gone awry and I've had to figure out how many cooks are in the kitchen. So yeah, I love those. This is what the activity log looks like on the sheet level, where you can actually see the type of action, you can check your date range, you can actually request a snapshot of a particular change. And so that's what that looks like as well. Forms are really easy to make, really easy to customize. They've got logic, skip logic. You can change the color and the audience. You can customize them. You can create them with hidden default values, etc. And then you can embed them in either a website or send them as a URL by themselves or a link in an email. It would be like having basically SurveyMonkey or Microsoft Forms right at your fingertips, and all that information would go directly into your sheet. Reports, like I said, is that other element. And you can see here, reports can be filtered and summarized and sorted in different ways. They can also be scheduled and emails. So let's say that I'm the project manager. I've got 5 different projects and my boss wants to see only the red items from Kirk every Monday morning. I build a report, which is a lot, just point and click, and then I go up to File, and then I send the file and I automate every Monday morning at 7 o'clock, send this to my boss, and I set it and forget it. It's really handy. Content collaboration is a relatively new feature, but imagine if you had, let's say, a PDF or a commercial that you were working on, or a newsletter that lots of people had to weigh in on. You attach it to the row, and then you send it out as, you know, to the people who you want to see it. On the right-hand side, you can see 0 people have approved it, 2 have rejected it, 1 response is pending. And then if you look on the actual picture itself, you can see these numbers. See the number 1 down on this lady right here. James Sherman has that comment, number 1, that's how it correlates. What if we put the metals in color so they stand out more? And then the number 2 over here also correlates to James Sherman. Can we get a little more contrast between the sky and the cloud? So they can make those comments directly into the document itself and either accept or reject those changes. Now you can see up in the right as well, it's version 1. So let's say I send something out. It can be a PDF, it can be a picture, it can be all different kinds of file types. And I get back some kind of feedback that I want to change immediately before other people take a look. I can literally close down their review, make the changes that they want, post it basically, and then it becomes version 2, and then I send it back out to the reviewers again until they all give me that green thumbs up that says approval. And then I have this, I've got a history of all the comments plus the changes with a workflow approval all in one. Automated workflows are one of my favorites. So there are 2 types of triggers, date-based triggers and value-based triggers. If you want to have something automate when a value changes, like let's say somebody submits a new form and you want somebody to get notified there's a new request. That would be this when rows are added or changed. You could do when rows are added, and then it says any field right there. You could say, and any field, meaning the date or the organization or whatever it is, when any value changes, or you pick the field, right? So if the date changes to any value, then run the workflow when triggered. Now that run workflow can also be modified. It can be immediate, hourly, daily, and weekly. And then what do you want to have happen when it gets triggered? Well, for this one in particular, if the amount is greater than or equal to 100, do this action, and that goes below it. And if the amount is less than 100, send this other type of email or action. You can do multi-step workflows, recurring workflows, conditional reminders. You can move rows, change values, send update requests, all kinds of things. You can even set them on a time-based trigger, plus or minus 364 days. So let's say I want a reminder to update your contact information once a year. I can schedule that, and it will automatically send out a reminder once a year, every year until I stop that. I know that was a lot to like hear about just like in your head. So I really want to show you how this works. I have two examples, one internal and one external. I guess my question would be, since I can only see my screen, let me ask Amy and the rest, is this a good place to ask questions, or would you like to see the demonstrations first?
I think we can see the demonstrations first and then talk about
perfect.
questions.
So the first one I want to show you is the PSOB, which is called the Public Service Office Building up in Portland, has a number of rooms available. So we use Smartsheet as both a room and equipment reservation system. This is the dashboard right here, and I'll show it to you in just a minute, but I wanted to show you kind of what it can do. Because the dashboards are visual in nature, this dashboard is embedded in our OWL, which is the kind of our internal SharePoint site where we do Workday and all those types of things, where you can go and you can look at all of the layouts with the different room capabilities and seating capacities and those types of things. You can then also get the attachment of it. Let's see if I can go here. I think I have it up. I want to make sure I'm gonna change my screen here and hope that it works. Here it is. Can you see that? Great.
Yep, looks good.
Okay, here's the dashboard. So the URL right there, I could share it directly with you and you could go take a look at it. You can actually interact with the sheet itself right here. So I have it on card view because I want to see which agency, which division has reservations, but I could change that as well very easily by saying, let's look at approval status. This one's submitted but not approved. These have been declined. Well, how about if I look at which ones have a Polycom assigned to them? There's Polycom number 1, 2, 3, and 4, and those are all different pieces of equipment in the director's office. So you see on October 25th, this Polycom number 1 is already booked from 8 to 5 that day. Maybe I want to look at it by the program that has the reservation as well. All of this is in card view, but maybe I want to look at it in grid view. There's all the information. Or how about I just want to look at it in calendar view? I can interact with it that way right here. So I can do 1 month, I can look at 1 week, and then scroll through that. And if I want to see what's on the 25th, I just double click on it, and the card for that entry, 875, will come up with all the information associated with that reservation. Now the bottom part here, and let's say, okay, I don't see mine on there, or I want to go ahead and I see that the 26th is available. I can go ahead and fill out this form right here, which says, you know, what's my billing in case I in case I break things, what's my email, what division am I in? It's got drop-down boxes right here. What time is your meeting? What's just some extra notes? Click any of this equipment that's needed and go ahead and submit it. When you submit that form, it goes directly to the coordinator who goes and checks to make sure that the equipment is available on that day. And then it shows up on the sheet. Now, some of the other things here, I say that because we have one lady who does all the reservations, and room B requires a different HDMI cable than the rest of the rooms. And nobody knew that except for her. So for instance, you know, I can see what the room looks like, and then I can pull up the attachment right here and I can take a look. Oh, darn. So this is gonna require me to log into my account. So I meant not to do that. But the point is that the system is a landing point where you can do your reservation. Once it gets approved, not only will you get a notification that it's been approved, but then it will show up right here. So you can see that it's been approved. It's gone from submitted to approved. And there's our just how, you know, one of the ways we use it. So we use it for equipment reservations. We use it for room reservations. We use it for car reservations. And we've also been using it for cubicle reservations as our building has been opening back up. The next demonstration, this one I'm really excited about. It's one of the things that we developed with the COVID recovery and response. I'll go ahead and show that to you, but I kind of want to tell you what the system is like. The system is that we provide support to community-based organizations that are hosting vaccine events out in the community. So here's our calendar of all of those events. And again, when you double click on them, you can see all of the details associated with that event, and they're color coded, probably by the partner that's offering them or whatever. So this is the process where these are all the people that interact with this quote unquote system. The community partner fills out the order that says, hey, I'm having an event and I need some food. The notification sends it to HA staff. They process it and send it to the vendor, who then turns around and adds it to the sheet saying, yep, we're going to go ahead and do that. The partner that has requested the information gets a note saying, here's who's going to be providing food for you. And then the event occurs. Once the event occurs, the Smartsheet automation looks at the event and says, oop, the thing has, the event date has passed. I'm going to go ahead and send them a post-event survey. How did we do? They fill out the survey, and it serves two purposes. One, for billing purposes. They asked us for 80 food boxes, and then we went ahead and scheduled that. The question is, did they get the 80 food boxes? Did they get them at all? Did they get less than what they asked? What was the customer service like? So there's two sides to this post thing. One is for quality improvement. How did we do? Did we do okay or not? And then the other part is for billing. Let's say they asked for 80, but they only got 50 food boxes, and then they billed us for 80 food boxes. The notification then says, hey, there's a discrepancy between what they asked for and what they got. And then billing gets notified that make sure you don't reimburse them for more than 50 because that's all they got. So that's that post-event follow-up. And then the invoices are sent and processed and paid, and then all tracked for finalized. And then in addition to that, we can correlate, basically, we have a Likert scale or a symbol, scale. How did we do 1 to 5? And we can get like a customer service rating. Here's right here. This is the event dashboard itself. And so you can see data and metrics all around all of the different, you can see there's quite a few metrics that are involved. It's terrific. And then here's the sheet called Food Vaccination Events. It's in calendar view right now, but let's say I wanted to look at the grid and I wanted to add a filter that was, I only want to see the ones where Tatiana Eckhart was the vaccine equity coordinator. Those are the five out of the 1,400 rows were associated with Tatiana. So we do have what's called the Oregon State Smartsheet Users Group Team, or OSMART for short. We have monthly trainings called Smartsheet Sessions, hosted by yours truly. It's a part technical assistance. Here's how you do things, where I actually teach you features and functions and troubleshooting, and part open office hours. Gee, I'm having trouble writing a formula. Can you help me? If you'd like to join the team, there's the code. You don't even need to ask. And each agency has their own channel. So if you represent an agency that's using Smartsheet and you'd like your own channel, please let me know. I'd be happy to add you guys on there. There's also a peer-to-peer channel where you can ask people, I'm trying to do X. Has anyone else done that, in the agency? Past Smartsheet sessions and presentations and recordings are all available in the document libraries. And sometimes they're really helpful because I keep getting asked a lot of the same questions, right? One of the questions I got was, who needs a license and who doesn't? Well, I have a whole presentation on that. There's also a SharePoint site that's for the team, and you can contact me if you'd like to be added. And now is the time for questions. And hopefully I'll be able to provide some answers.
We have one question saying, I'm not an expert, but there is a significant value add, especially in a no-code, low-code environment. This integration with other platforms makes it simple to collaborate with internal, external stakeholders. I guess it's more of a comment than a question.
That sounds like a statement to me,
Yeah.
but you're absolutely right. I will tell you, we had 3 licenses at the Public Health Division, and I was coordinating projects across 7 different divisions for our agency with just those 3 licenses.
Another question is, I understand that Smartsheet is compatible with Snowflake, which makes data sharing and ingestion for other reporting purposes very advantageous. Do you have any experience with this added value?
That is a great question. I will tell you, I have never heard of Snowflake, so I would say no is the answer. But there are lots of integrators and connectors, including for Teams, Power BI, Slack, other lots of other software platforms. The issue that we've had at the Oregon Health Authority is that the Office of Information Services will not support and or approve any of those connectors. There's lots of premium apps as well. So I know one of the people on this call is Rodney Manolis, who works in the director's office with a lot of the finance and invoicing. And he has demonstrated proficiency in Dynamic View, Data Mesh, Data Uploader, the Pivot app. All of those can be connected to other databases that we have at the state, but they have to be approved by whoever is, EIS or OIS. And that's been problematic because it's not on the approved software list. It's been approved as an exception. So what that means is we'll let you buy it and use it, but we're not going to support you with it at all. And that's where Smartsheet Sessions comes in, is because it's so powerful. And I think people get intimidated by it because they see these beautiful dashboards. Trust me, 1 hour with me, or until you get the glazed over look in your eyes. And that's when I'll stop. It gives you like a little mini masterclass in Smartsheet. And it allows you as a project manager to increase your capacity and efficiency with the same amount of time that everyone else has. I think that's really the beauty is normally I'd have to be emailing people, reminding them, updating my own sheet. It's not accessible to anybody else. You can have unlimited collaborators and none of them need a license, both internal and external. So I don't have experience with Snowflake, but I do have experience with many of the other systems that we've tried to connect.
It was you talked about security before, but are there any security concerns with the program? And also, is it open source?
It is not open source, but it does have API access, and I've also been successful using a script that I got from GitHub to back up the entire account, because I see another question there that says, what do you do when someone leaves and they're the owner of the Smartsheet? So as the system administrator for public health, I'm not always informed when someone leaves. However, when I am, I take them off the account and then I revert all of their files to me just as a repository for records retention. Then when the new person comes in, I transfer them all the files back. So it doesn't change the functionality of the system that they've created. It doesn't change the sharing or anything. Everything stays intact. But the owner does change to me. So a lot of times that's been a little problematic, right? Because I'll be the owner of something and food boxes is one of them. I'm the owner, but it's not because I'm the creator. It's because the person who owned it did leave and it ended up in my inbox as the owner when they left, and I haven't transferred it back to anyone. So, which is fine if I'm the system administrator, right? So it'd be fine if someone did take on that food box, I could transfer the whole thing to Rodney tomorrow or to Michelle or Whitney or whatever. So the whole thing can be shared with workspaces and stuff. We have another one. Do you know if you can import a CSV file into a Smartsheet? We pull data out of the ORCID system, ORCIDs. I used to work at DHS as a CSV and then create that information. So great news. Not only can you do a CSV, you can import a project file, you can import an Excel file, you can import a CSV, and there's just like if you were to take something from Excel and then import it into Access as your database, you know how you get that, there's a, I don't know the name of it. It's almost like a help thing where it says, which ones do you want to import and that kind of thing. You get that kind of a help thing where you just literally click on the button, import it, and then change the column properties to the database that you want. So let's say when you import the whole thing, you could import it as a text and then as a text field, and then just change the text properties to a drop-down box, and then all of a sudden you have a drop-down box. It's not even a problem, but the issue is that workbooks in Excel have multiple tabs. You can only import the first tab of each worksheet, a workbook, right? Because each sheet is like its own engine. And if you think about it more like Access than Excel, each sheet is a table with a primary key, and they talk to each other. The sheets talk to each other using that primary key. And then the reports pull all the information from multiple sheets using that primary key. I have another question from Shelley. Can you speak a bit more about how you're backing up the system? Do you end up with a backup of your dashboards and reports also? So that's a great question. Now, I, as a system administrator, like I said, I got this protocol off of GitHub that I run once a month, but each individual user can set up each individual item and or their entire account as often as they want. They can do it daily, monthly, weekly. You just go into each item and then there's a backup option right there. So I do encourage people to back up all of their own stuff, but on occasion I'm not shared to things because I'm the system administrator, but if I'm not shared to it, then I have no access to it. So the problem is, let's say someone has 10 cooks in the kitchen and one of them accidentally deletes the sheet. It goes to their local trash can. I don't have access to that. So I do know how to recover things, but that's how the backup works, is you have to go into each item. Oh, I could even show you if we had time to. So I have another question. Tricia says, I thought you mentioned the slides were sent with the invite. I was one of the ones that received the incorrect Teams link. You betcha. I will absolutely send this out afterwards because I actually have links in there as well. So you're more than welcome to watch the video again. I just love the functionality of it. What are the obstacles or hesitancy by IS to approve the product? It seems like an awesome tool to help everyone do their job more effectively. Not only do I agree with you, but I think that there's a couple of different things going on. So this is my personal opinion. I'm prefacing it with that. So the cloud workbook only goes to a certain level of security, right? So we have all of these individual little accounts. And by that, I can also tell you there are two versions. Smartsheet.com is what I introduced you today, and it's the retail version. It is certainly secure. However, there is another version called Smartsheet.gov. Some agencies are on Smartsheet.gov, and it's a different animal, meaning it has fewer of the bells and whistles, but it's approved at the GSA level up to level 3. So you may choose to go that route, but you won't have as many of the additional features that are available in Smartsheet.com. Doesn't mean you can't use it, but I think the cloud workbook would have to be approved at the EIS level, which is the state level, in order to get it approved at the OIS level. And they keep saying that it's security, but it's my understanding that that is their stance on anything that is software as a service, which you've seen as SaaS, or cloud-based software. because there's a click-through user agreement, or EULA, and the Department of Justice has to approve the EULA for any cloud-based software in order to approve it for OAS or EIS. I know that's a long explanation, but that's been my observation, is anything that has a click-through user agreement. That's why we can't use Google. That's why we can't use Basecamp. That's why we can't use Monday or Trello or Slack. They're all cloud-based, and I believe that they have security issues that DOJ hasn't approved. When you download any software, and that includes free software, right? That includes that for OAS. They won't allow you to download it because of that click-through user agreement. Let's see. With automated messaging, how do we ensure the messages have the correct data? Well, that's an excellent question. It literally reflects what's in the cell itself. So I always recommend testing. You can pipe the data in. Actually, there's two different types of requests, right? Forms are data collectors. So they add rows to your sheet. That's what they do, is add records. You can do a combination of a form collector with an update request to maintain the integrity of your data in any or all of the sheets. Then you can add automations like, let's say someone submits a new request, and then that would trigger an update request for a second set of data, which then they would fill out, and it would update the record that's there. And then you can copy that row over to a database that you're collecting contact information for or whatever. So an example would be, we collected expenditure reports from the local public health authorities, and we wanted them to give us their, their expenses for that were allowable, the ones not allowable, et cetera. And we had them fill out this little worksheet, and they gave us like 3 or 4 different numbers. And so that is how we collected the information. Once they submitted that, that triggered an automation that says, okay, thank you, LPHA, for giving this information. You reported $30 million. Of those $30 million, please tell us how those were broken up by modernization categories for your functional capabilities. And that would be disease control and organizational effectiveness and those types of things. So it was a combination event that I would normally have to coordinate all of that information gathering. Let's see here. It looks like I'm hoping that I'm answering your questions. I'm getting by the kind of the silence that either A, I'm talking too fast, or B, I am answering questions. And thank you, Whitney. Okay, so Whitney says, it may be my access type or level, but it looks like Osmart SharePoint hyperlink in the shared slides is not a full link to the site. So the question that I would have is, Whitney, are you part of the team? Because that is every team, I don't know if you guys all knew this, every team that you're on has a back-end SharePoint site. If you're not part of the team, you wouldn't be able to see the SharePoint site. It's what replaced our old SharePoint 2013 collaboration sites. And when we migrated over, that's kind of the equivalent. So if you're not on the Osmart team, you may not be able to see the site. Then we have Jean. Oh, Jean put in the PowerPoint. Thank you so much. Rodney, I cannot see what you posted in the chat. It's very, very small. Can you share that with us?
Yes, I tried.
Oh.
Hello, everyone. Rodney, male, Black, New Yorker. I just wanted to answer that question while you were, I just wanted to post some screenshots just to show one of the things of, as it pertains to sending out messages, you can create a pre-populated message. And when you or someone on your team choose a trigger a specific action, it will then send or notify the specific people that you've already designated to receive specific messages. So again, in a no-code, low-code environment, this level of a tool for collaboration has made it a whole lot easier to be able to get the right information to the right people at the right time.
Yep. And you can send it to specific people, or you can send it to what's called a contact list, which has emails. So During your data collection, you say, who's filling this out, please, in case we need to contact you again. Whatever is in that cell, and you can validate it, there's a validation button there, is what it gets sent to. So there's a bit of self updating as well. This is what a trigger might look like. So when rows are added or changed and the status changes to approved, then alert someone, and the recipients would be a contact list, which runs off email, like I said. These are great screenshots, Rodney, thanks. I'm gonna close that. One thing that was actually, let's see, the above screenshot is an automation part. That's true. I just have a quick, I want to see how many people, by maybe raising your hands, how many people are using Smartsheet currently? We've got some hands. Great. And I guess another question is, how many people have actually gone beyond the sheet is the question. So I have a lot of people who, you know, they'll start with a sheet or they'll get shared to the sheet. And then they say, gosh, this looks like Excel. And I guarantee you, if you use it like Excel, you will be frustrated. It is not a spreadsheet, but it has a lot of spreadsheet capabilities. And so that's actually I love going beyond the sheet and getting to the reports and dashboards, because that's where it's going to increase your capacity and efficiency. I see that there's a hand raised. Let's take a look. Who's that?
That may have just been a response to your question. But
I've got a Steve Ponce and a Shelley Gillies. You want to ask your questions? Oh, you were just raising who uses it.
Yes, I was just raising who uses it. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're right. I will tell you, if you want to see, so during COVID, I did present at Smartsheet Engage, and you can probably look that up on YouTube or not. But this week is their Engage conference, and every year, this time, they introduce even more functionality. So the thing behind me here that you can see, they have a brand new certification for project management. And not only does it give you professional development units to go ahead and take it, but because the public health division is part of the early adopter program, they gave me a one-time basically beta test to take this certification. You might want to see, I don't know if it has it in there. This is good for 2023. So at the end of getting any of those certifications, it says, would you like to share this on your LinkedIn page? And you click the button, say yes, please. And then it goes out to your LinkedIn page, and then you can download the certificate, because it's good for a year or two or however long that and you can put it in Workday and then say, look, I don't have a PMP, but I have, you know, I have a certified, it's a proctored exam and everything. It's really great. Someone else asked the question, can we put the link to the Sharepoint site for the Osmart group? You bet. And Spencer Davis has a note, which I love. Dashboards and reports are game changers. Also, April, so understanding the security, we could use this for internal purposes, but because it's cloud-based, we should not put any client info in there. Is that correct? So I'm guessing April might be from DHS. So because I come from public health, there are some exceptions to the PHI kind of security rule, right? We're dealing in population. So things like vaccine, the personally identifying information that we collect is not associated with personal health information. So we have vaccine records are different than I want to register for a vaccine event. When it comes to individual case records or client information that could be personally identifying information in a case management type thing, that's where it starts to get a little dodgy. I don't want to speak for DHS in that in particular. I do know that that there are cases where you can collect personally identifying information and it doesn't violate any type of confidentiality rules. So I would check with your system administrator about that. He happens to be Andy Lally for OAS, who handles all of the public health, OHA, and DHS accounts. Does anyone else want to share some of their experience with Smartsheet, if they're using it in a different way? Or if they learned something today that they didn't know before, or if I misspoke in any way? So I think I will give you the gift of time back if that's the case. Amy, you want to go ahead and...
Did you want to put the link to the SharePoint site in the chat, Joey?
Yeah, but I wanted to stop talking first.
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
And yes, I will start with my closing comments. We hope that you gained a greater understanding of Smartsheet. We also hope this presentation was helpful and want to say a huge thank you to Joey and thank all of you for attending. Please find some additional resources in the chat, and you can look for a follow-up email with links to resources and a short survey that will help us improve future PMUG experiences. We'll also be posting some feedback forms, including one you can fill out to nominate yourself or a colleague as a future speaker. Again, if you're interested in business analyst processes, visit the Bang website shared earlier. And enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you again in November.
Sweet. This was awesome. Oh, I'm not muted.
Thank you so much.
I think she stopped recording, so that's probably okay. I'm
Nope,
getting
haven't stopped recording yet.
I'm looking for, so if you go to the Osmart, let me just share my,